Welcome to the creative community. I'm your host, David Starkey, and my guest this time is author Gerald Dipego. Jerry, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I'm happy to have you here. One of our mutual friends, Ruben Lee Dalton, who's been a guest on the show several times, cannot stop raving about you. He's like, you got to have this guy on the show. So I'm glad that we finally were able to make that happen.
I'm glad too.
Now, we're going to go over a lot of stuff because you have had a pretty distinguished career as an author of all sorts of writing. But I know that one of your kind of interesting moments in your life was going to see your first movie at 4 years old. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. I was about 4 or 5 years old, and picture this, my mother is, or in the afternoon, my mother is walking myself and my brother to what would be my very first movie.
Right.
And this was before television, so I had never seen any kind of...
You had a moving picture at all, yeah.
Yeah, never before. So it's funny, in those days, people didn't necessarily call up and say what's playing, what time. They just went to the movie. Right. So this is an afternoon, we walk in, and you know, people will sit down and watch, and then after a while somebody will say, this is where we came in, and they leave.
Okay. You wouldn't necessarily go to the start time.
No, that's how it was. So she brought us in and sat us down, and suddenly there I was, and on this big screen, to me, big screen, was a story, because movies are stories. Right. So this was my very first story, and I was just amazed. And because I was young, I didn't always know what was going on, but I was just amazed by the event and by the thing I was watching. Right. And it really lifted me. And I remember looking at my mother and seeing that she was watching the screen in a kind of rapture. And I felt that same rapture.
So that was something, how long was it before you thought, I want to create what's happening on that screen?
Quite a while.
Yeah, a while?
Quite a while, yeah. Yeah, I wasn't thinking that then. I was just eating it.
You were just eating it up. Yeah. But what was your kind of career path to getting to your first writing assignment? And where was all this taking place?
Well, we moved out of Chicago into Round Lake, Illinois, little town. And so when I went to college, it was Northern Illinois University.
Okay, my son's alma mater.
Oh yeah?
Yes.
Cool. And that's when I started seriously sending my stories out, short stories. Because a lot of magazines in those days had short stories. Right. And it took 7 years.
Oh, wow. That's dedication.
It's more than dedication.
It's insanity.
It's insanity. But I couldn't stop. I didn't want to stop.
And what sort of stories were they primarily character-driven or plot-driven? Were they for a certain type of genre? What were you writing about?
It was all over the place. Yeah, it was all over the place. Whatever struck my mind.
Whatever came into your head.
Yeah. But during those 7 years, when I taught school for a while. I had, different jobs. I was always writing, but I was also reading better and better authors to help me.
Right.
Like Kazantzakis and Ernest Hemingway.
Right.
So
these literary authors that were also popular at the time too.
Yeah. So I was filling myself with that and just kept trying and trying. And 7 years went by, and I sold my first story to Red Book magazine.
Ah, good old Red Book. Yeah, that's great. And that was a good sale, right?
Yeah, it was a good sale. I mean, I was so thrilled.
I'm sure, yeah.
It could have paid me a dime, and I would have been...
You were a published author then.
Yeah, and they asked me for another one, and I sent one in, and they printed that too. So I was like flying high, And while I was doing that, I started my first novel, and I also started learning how to write film scripts. And when I felt ready, I just piled everything into my Volkswagen with my wife and firstborn son.
Right.
And we went to LA to see if I could
No
make
job
it.
lined up or anything?
No.
You just had
Yeah.
a car and some luggage
yeah,
and a kid and a wife.
No, I did have one contact.
Okay.
I did have one contact. They had an advertising, little tiny
Right.
advertising industry thing. So I did work for them for
Right.
a while I finished my script and started getting it around.
Right.
And around and around, and it took a long time.
Now, what year around was this?
Pardon me?
What year was this?
You know, that's where memory is.
What decade? What decade was this? 50s, 60s?
No, it was, yeah, it was 60s.
60s. Okay.
Yeah.
You're shopping your script
Shopping
around.
the script around, and I finally got the call.
Okay.
And this man called me and said, by the way, this guy was, what he was doing is doing movies of the week for one of the television
TV,
networks.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he said, I liked your script, and you made my wife cry.
Okay.
And he said, what you wrote is too soft for what we're doing here.
Oh,
so I started, and he said, but I've got 4 scripts moving toward production, and I think you could improve them.
Oh, okay.
Would you come in? Of course.
Right. Right.
So that was the beginning.
So you were kind of a script doctor in a way.
I was a script actor for those 4 films, and then they started giving me my own assignments.
Right. Now, was this all television at the time?
All
or?
television, yeah. And there was if I may go
Yeah.
on, there was a movie producer who wanted to open an office for TV, and he did so, and he called me in, and he said, I want to do a TV movie, and it's about 2 older people. A love story with 2 older people. And I waited for him to go on, and that was
it, huh?
So I finally had something I could do from scratch.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And I wrote this film about an older couple who have to move in with their son and his family
Right.
because the old man was sick.
A story that could be told today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. And I called it A Family Upside Down. And this producer could get anybody. He got Helen Hayes and Fred Astaire to
Wow.
play the older couple.
Wow.
And Fred Astaire, you know, had put away his dancing shoes. They were
Right.
in their
I've
70s.
always been a pretty good actor, I think.
He's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could,
That's not the greatest act, but I thought he was a very
yeah.
capable actor.
And here he goes into a solid kind of film,
right.
you know, rather than the wonderful
Sure,
dancing
yeah,
films he
right.
did where he was very funny and
Right.
good. So the film did well, and Fred Astaire won his first Emmy for real acting,
Right.
you know, you know.
Through your script.
Yeah.
You must have been excited.
Oh, I was so excited, and the film won a Golden Globe.
Right.
And I was just thrilled.
So did your life take a different turn at that point? You know,
It did.
What happened
Yeah.
at that point?
People took notice, and somebody in the movie side saw my film
Right.
or got in, you know, and I was asked to come in and adapt a novel for a movie, and it was called Sharky's Machine.
Right. Right.
Burt Reynolds.
Right.
And Burt was going to direct and star in it. So I was thrilled, and I had meetings with him. We talked about it, and I went and did the adaptation, and you know, all went well. And luckily, I started out being able to be there for prep
Mm-hmm.
and then be there for the first 3 weeks of shooting.
Right.
And that was what happened for the rest of my writing career. That's what I would
You'd
do.
be around there the early part of the
Yeah,
of the
and I
filming.
think it's important for the writer to be there in case people come up with changes or
Right.
they have to cut this or that.
You want to have a little say in what's going on.
Yeah.
But you know, I think now we're in 2024. It's important to remember that back then, let's face it, TV didn't have the same prestige as films did. So that was a really big jump.
It's all switched around.
It's all switched around now, yeah.
But no, entering into features was a major deal at
Right.
that time.
And Burt Reynolds was a huge star at that
Yeah.
time too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, did you hobnob with Fred Astaire and Burt Reynolds and Helen Hayes, or were you just sort of kind of on the periphery as a screenwriter?
Because Burt was directing it.
Right.
We had a lot of give and
contact,
take.
yeah.
You know, didn't become friends,
Right.
but you know had
know
that.
him, yeah.
But Fred Astaire, let me tell you a brief Fred
Sure,
Astaire
yeah.
story. When we were shooting that film, it was Fred was sitting under a tree, and the director said, "Take one, take two, take three. Okay, I've got it. Now, actors, you have half an hour."
Right.
So, Fred stands up. Now, his character used a cane in the movie, but he didn't need
Right.
the cane. But he picked up the cane, just carrying it along, and he walked toward his trailer. And suddenly, just without thinking, he started twirling the
He's
cane.
dancing his way to the trailer.
He didn't dance, but he twirled that cane. And one by one, all of us looked up, stopped what we were
Right.
doing, and watched him.
That's kind of a magical moment.
Yeah, it was a magical moment.
Yeah.
And we all looked at each other. When he left, we just all looked at each other. It was like we had had a blessing.
Yeah, you had seen something really important.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm looking here at my cheat sheet here. You worked with John Travolta, Paul Newman, Anthony Hopkins, Juliette Binoche. We've got about 15 minutes, so we can't hear about everybody in detail. But I'm curious to know more about this period in your life when you're working on screenplays.
Yeah, it was very exciting.
Yeah. What are some of the highlights that you recall?
Well, Paul Newman had been my hero ever since I saw him in The Hustler. And now here I am working with him.
Which film was that? Do you recall?
On the film, it's Message in a Bottle.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Message in a Bottle. He played Kevin Costner's dad. But he was just so full of life, and it was great meeting him and talking to him, and he just loved the craft and
Yeah.
very serious about it, but he had a great sense of humor.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, we had some good talks, and he loved to tell really bad jokes.
Oh, really?
Really bad jokes. But I just loved working with him, and he was still so vibrant. He was in his 70s. but,
Right.
You know.
Well, now I think of him as one of the great screen actors.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, he's so devoted to his craft, and just so much nuance with the lifted eyebrow or something like
everything,
that.
yeah.
Who else impressed you as an actor or actress?
Well, Anthony Hopkins, I wrote a story called, a screenplay called, what was that?
Instinct.
Thank you.
Instinct. We got a little help from the Peanut Gallery.
Yeah, it was called Instinct. That's not what I named it, but they named it
Okay.
Instinct. And what a wonderful actor, and what a nice man. He's a very caring man, very kind of soft-spoken, caring man. And obviously, as soon as he said, yes, I'll do the part,
Right.
they arranged, and they were, you know, of course, putting him on an airplane to come all the way to, you know, the other side of the country to
Right.
where we were shooting and so on. And he said, no, that's all right, I'll just drive.
Oh, wow.
And he drove, going to motels around the country, just...
That was part of his preparation for the role, maybe.
He's just a loner.
Interesting.
Kind of a loner as a man. But the great thing is that when we were shooting indoors, a bunch of us would be sitting around waiting for the next shot,
Right.
and he was there, you
Right.
know, and he would make us laugh so much because he could mimic the voices of all the Brit actors to a very, I mean, you close your eyes and you're listening to Richard Burton
Right.
and Laurence Olivier,
Right.
and perfectly.
Right.
And so that was one of the things that I carried with me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so now this is all in the 1970s, we're thinking, 80s by this time?
Yeah, no, it's mostly the 80s.
Okay.
Even more than that.
Into the 90s as well,
Yeah.
too. You're also, though, are an author of novels, too. So that was not, I mean, we know this is your first love, writing short stories for 7 years. When did you find your way back into writing for print?
Well, that came early on. I was doing both at the same time.
Okay.
And I was working my way through. I mean, I wrote 4 novels.
Right.
And, you know, one of them was a magical realism kind of thing, and 2 of them were detective kind of things. I was just doing, you know, different things.
Whatever
Yeah.
caught your fancy.
And then I, you know, was more busy in movies, but then an idea came to me, and I wrote what was then my best novel, called Chivi, about a young man turning 20 and trying to hold his family together, father, mother, brother, sister. Everybody was, you know, at odds with each other, and he was trying, and that was the story of Chivi, and he was narrating it. So I was very, very happy with that book, and it did pretty well.
Well, you know, I'm curious about that. Those are 2 really different types of writing. I've written plays and also novels, and I know that there are certain things you can carry over. For instance, if you're good at dialogue, your novel can be full of dialogue, and I think plays teach you about structure and, you know, being compact and not having any wasted scenes, any wasted moments. Especially, I feel like in the theater, a dead scene seems to go on and on forever, even more than in a film. But what are some of the things that you saw as crossovers and maybe places where those 2 mediums were kind of at odds?
You know, I didn't think of it that way. I really didn't.
You just wanted to write.
I just loved all those different kinds of writing.
Okay.
I did some plays, I did this and that, but I just loved sinking into this kind of thing, and then, okay, now I'll do a script, and I just loved each one.
Right.
And not one more than the other.
Okay.
You know?
So when we're talking about your novels, and we got about 10 minutes left, was there a certain point when you thought, well, Hollywood and I are ready to part ways, or are you still involved? I mean, was there a time, because you're now living in the San Ynez Valley, talk me through that kind of 80s, early 90s, maybe transition to where you are now.
Yeah, I aged out of movies,
Okay.
and I don't mean they kicked me out. I mean, I had done enough,
Right.
you know, of that, and it's, you know, it's very hard work, and you know, it can go bad, it can go good, you know, there's all that kind of.
Right.
So I felt, you know, nice going back to the novel form, and my novel, most recent novel, came in last March. So. And I really had a good time doing that. And I put it on stage in little pieces in the San Ynez Valley. I had so much fun putting up things on the valley with local actors.
Right.
And so I turned that into a novel, and that came out, you know, recently, and now I'm working on another one. But now and then I love to write short stories, and I'm going to do a show with Cynthia.
Yeah.
Cynthia. And we both are going to be reading our stories. So I love doing that.
Right.
All different kinds.
Yeah. Well, and as I understand it too, your your family is also a
Yeah.
bunch of writers as well too. Are they inspired by you? How did that?
You know, I guess so, although they went off on their own ways. You know, I have two sons, wonderful guys, and they married wonderful women, and one of them, he and his wife are writers, and they started in the romance part of writing, you know, and the other guy, Justin, has you know, done several books, but they both said, "Dad, let us help you bring out this new book." So they're going to help me get this book out, you know, when it comes about.
So one of the things I find when I'm publishing a book is that there's an expectation on the part of the publisher that you're going to do a bunch of social media and maybe do a web advertisement, stuff like that. From our mutual friend Ruben, it sounds like that's not necessarily something that you would dive into. Is that correct?
Well, actually, when I went back to the novel form, I did self-publishing. I just wanted to try that myself.
How did it work?
It worked okay. I wasn't feeling well at that time, so I should have done more. I could have done more. I was supposed to do more.
Right.
And that's why it's so nice. I'm feeling much better now, and my sons are going to help me. So I think this new book will get a better entree out there.
Right. Well, tell me a little bit about the Santa Ynez theater scene, because that's something I don't know that much about. I know that you're bringing people in to do bits and pieces. I mean, are they short excerpts from the novel that do they string together as a full-length play? How's that work?
All different kinds. I did it for years. Everything from comedies to, you know, serious stuff.
And where is this taking place? What's the venue?
Various venues in the Santa Ynez Valley, even the high school stage.
Okay.
You know, and also the Maverick and other places. You know. And I just had such a great time. And we didn't. Often we didn't charge anything for it. We were just having fun up there.
Having people come in and take a look,
Yeah, and other times we'd make it you know, there would be some entity, and people would pay to come in, but that would go to the entity in the Santa Ynez Valley that needed some money.
Right.
But we just had a ball.
Yeah. Well, it's a interesting and creative place. So our friend Ruben is a musician primarily, but also a poet.
Yes.
Another guest we've had on, Dan Gerber, is a very well-known poet.
Wonderful poet.
And I assume that there are a lot of sort of film people sprinkled around in there on those ranches and stuff like that. Is that the case?
Yeah, but you know, a lot of them, like Dan and myself, you know, we don't go out much.
Right, okay.
We love to write our things.
Right.
And once in a while Dan will do a reading and I'll do a reading, you know, but it's, yeah, it's just spotty here and there and there. And Ruben, he's done some
He's
fine
everywhere,
work.
yeah. Well, we just have about 4.5 minutes left, and you've got such a long, distinguished career. I would love to hear about 4.5 minutes worth of advice to aspiring writers, and think about our TV audiences, both maybe, you know, 15, 16-year-old kid is just starting out, and then someone my age in their 60s who's always wanted to write but never has.
Yeah.
I mean, what are some of the best pieces of advice that you've learned from your own experience over the years, and maybe also that you've read about, or the pieces of advice that folks have given to you?
Well, in my later years, I wrote a book about how I write.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like this is how you should write. Right. It's just this is how I write, and I had to pull in things that, you know, I didn't even know I was doing.
Yeah.
But
so what are some of the things that you said in the book?
Well, just the depth. You know, that's the first thing that comes to mind. Is when you're writing, say to yourself, go deeper.
Okay. Go
deeper. Sink into this. Because what you're going to get are nuggets of things. You know, you can write on the level, you know, and enjoy your writing and so on, but go deeper. What's down in there? What makes it yours and not
Somebody
the same
else's.
as many other writers, but what's going to make it yours? And I think it's digging down to the depth. And I write novels. I don't write things about my life. So you're making it up, but the characters you're inventing and what they're doing, the deeper you can go, even in lighter fare still, the deeper you can go into a character, the character becomes more real to the audience and the reader.
So how do you, I mean, that's an interesting thing, because one of the bromides of teaching creative writing, which I've said many times myself, is write about what you know. You're saying you don't necessarily write about yourself. How do you find that way in deeper into a character that is someone other than yourself?
It's hard to put that into words, In other words, you're walking along and you get an idea, and I wonder if that'll work, like the movie Phenomenon. What if there was somebody who was the smartest person on earth? What would he be like?
Right.
Now let's make him this way, and let's make him that way, and so you begin, to make a character.
Okay. It's a construction kind of.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's construction, and the deeper you go, the better it's going to be.
Better it's going to be. What else? Well, you still got a minute or two. What other piece of advice would you give to young writers or older writers, just folks?
Well, obviously the corny thing is don't give up.
No, I think that's a great piece of advice. That's the number one in a way.
7 years of writing before I sold anything, So just keep at it and read really good books, and it'll, it's not like you're studying. It's just that you're reading this wonderful, The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, or, deep, good stuff, and it's going to get inside of you. You don't have to make notes or anything. It's going to get inside of you. And
it's kind of osmosis a little bit.
Yeah, I think so.
How do you find those good books? I mean, friends, reading list online. How would you tell someone to find a bunch of good books?
Amazon, the Book Loft.
Just a good bookstore, a good person at a good bookstore. Chaucer's, we've just had them on the show.
Oh, good.
It's a great place to go.
Sure. And talk there. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna end on that note. Trusting the bookseller. I think that's a good thing to do. Jerry, it's been a real pleasure to get you out of your house here onto the TV studio and to hear so much. So thanks for being on the program.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
The Creative Community is a co-production of TVSB in Santa Barbara and Caps Media in Ventura. I'm your host, David Starkey, and we'll see you next time.